Closed it up. I sold it to them, closed it up for about 2 months and moved on with it. I got out of it. I couldn't get money. Oh, just like Wayne mother.
Creep up the leg side and give it the sneaky one.
Yeah, no, I didn't know.
Tails coming in, bowling into those gloves. When I reach out, just
Let's check the teams that England have first. Now it's going to go first with the Box. Round 3 and 4. And on that back for his first match of the World Cup after a hamstring injury. Dermot Green has been affected by injury, but he has to play. Chris Lewis can't bowl, he's round about 7. Derek Cricket is injury free at the moment. But Freitas has also had hamstring troubles in recent days, which Illingworth is the only left arm, so he puts on the left arm, and that's the sort of next thing he will allow as his first seam bowler. But New Zealand John Wright is going to go first with Mark Bradford, so Ron Latham has been left out, and Andrew Jones will have to throw Ken right for Chris Harris. Chris Cairns retains his place ahead of Danny Morrison. Deepak Patel, the off spinner, and we understand he's going to share the new ball bowling today. Ian Smith's the wicketkeeper, Gavin Larson, medium pacer, and Willie Watson, another seam bowler. Well, it's a sellout crowd here at the Basin Reserve today. This match has been one of those occasions which so many people in Wellington and the lower half of New Zealand's North Island have been looking forward to for a very long time. About 12,500 people in, absolutely jam-packed, a lovely, fine, sunny morning. England to bat first, their opening batsman Alex Stewart and Ian Botham. But a surprising new ball pair for New Zealand. Deepak Patel, the off-spinner, and the medium pacer, Chris Harris. Let's go to the action.
So Botham gets his first. Might have come off a leg. We'll have a look and see. Larson getting to it. No, leg by a kick off for Ian Botham. The first run's to Ian Botham, and Jones won't be able to cut off the second. Down fine, and there's no fine leg, so Watson will have to chase it all the way, but won't get it. The first boundary of the innings, and it's been struck by Ian Botham.
Yes, well, that ball would have been drifting well down the leg side, and really he's just got that very fine. Of course, the fine leg, as you say, Peter, is up in the circle.
Very close. Larson got it in quickly, but the leg bar is taken. Good running from Stewart and Botham. Driving, but not much timing. And Larson hits, but he's safe. Wasn't Cairns, it's Cairns here. So the pressure's on. There's nothing very much between life and death in this competition.
Well, that's good cricket. A nice off drive there. Very well fielded, a direct hit. And the umpire there has had to make the decision.
Just a wee bit short there. chase for Larson, but I think he can get it away. That's rolled it, and the boundary is very close because the outfield is so fast. So Stewart really had to hit it back, and Ian Smith couldn't get it.
And that ball turned quite sharply, very sharply indeed, as Stewart came down the wicket for a big on or off drive. Look at that. Well, Ian Smith normally takes those.
And the Beatty, both of them just 8 from 24 deliveries. Just watch the bat here, it's closed and went through the gate.
Larson chasing this. Outfield very quick indeed. And hit was underway. With the 2 runs, Martin Crowe joins in the applause for Deepak Patel. That's a lovely shot by Hick, and that's 4 runs. Short and wide from Watson, and Hick did the business. Pulled away by Hick, good shot, shook all the way. Starting to labour a bit, but makes it. Away he goes again, that's a most decisive shot from Hick. And that one flies to the fence.
Once again, Willie got a gust of wind in his face on delivery there. He's wider of the crease, but it only has to be just short of the length under these conditions. The ball sits up and looks at you and says, hit me.
Ball on edge, that should run away for 4. No slip in, and race down to the boundary. Boy, not too convincing with that shot. He gets a run anyway, Stewart. Down to a wide finally. Position. And there's the England 50. It's come up in the 13th over. Ball slashes that through. Good shot. That races away to the point boundary for 4.
Well, you don't often see a batsman square cutting off the front foot, which was what Stewart did there, and that, of course, is an indication of how very slow this pitch is.
Oh, over the top he goes, and he's hit very well indeed. Pitching up this time, Willie Watson, and hit over the top and down to the boundary for 4, and that's the end of the over at 58 for 1. So, readjustment going on out there. It looks like Ian Smith, although he's leaving the ground. I wonder what's going on. So, great pitch.
Paddy, great match, they call it. They don't call him Paddy just because he's putting his bat on, but...
No. I gather from down below, Henry, that Ian Smith has a migraine.
Poor chap, they're beastly things. You see double, treble vision. You feel sick. Oh, wonderful. I do feel for him very much.
Oh, cracking shot. Marvellous. Alex Stewart cracking it away through the covers for 4. Over-pitched by Cairns. A little bit of room outside the off stump. And bang.
And I tell you what, all British listeners, goodness, charge your glasses after that one. That was marvellous.
Oh, swung away.
long deliveries to get there.
So Gavin Larson is the first runs taken from him, and it might be a boundary rather than chasing it, but they'll give it away, Patel too. And so the last ball of Larson's second over produces a 4. It's 80 for 1, 18 overs completed. Oh, it's a good, strong hit in the air. Handsomely hit. Just over the end of the field. And Patel, I think he thought he had a chance there.
It was just over Chris Harris's head there, certainly very uppish. And could have been a great match. He might have pulled that one in. A couple of runs there.
It's a big shot, and it's going to go all the way through to cover. Patel just over tossing his cover to go to 36 from 38 balls. And it's 88 for 1 after 19.
The first over after drinks, and that's pulled away by Alex Stewart down behind square, and that's running away for 4. Willie Watson has no chance of stopping that. Out. Alex Stewart looking to force the pace. Goes down on one knee, but Swift in the air and caught him midwicket.
There's nothing wrong with the shot here. It's the catch. I like this. Sweep, hitting quite hard. It's a lovely catch. Catches win matches. Everybody knows that. Particularly one day, Vicky. It's all right.
So Chris Harris, one of the safest pairs of hands of New Zealand team. Just misses Alex Stewart. Deepak Patel has his second wicket on the 21st over and got a 95 for 2.
Smith has his first run now down to long on Kennard with the first one down there. And so Robin Smith is underway. And Hipkin turns it away to bring up England's 100 in the 24th over. And in fact, they're 100 for 2 at the end of that 24th over. So Nick Crowder in the batsman reserve. It'll be interesting to see that Andrew Jones is going to take over. So New Zealand are going to continue with spin, which may not please Mark Greatbatch, the keeper. Well, that's short. That gets the treatment, but there is a man out there. Rod Latham, the 12th man. Well, that's nicely played by Hick. It's racing off down to the boundary, and I don't think the fieldsman's going to get it. He's not. A deliberate shot played by Hick. Down through the slip area for 4.
Moving on to 50, and there it is. Graham Hick, 50 runs with that single. That's his third one-day 50, a very handy one for England. Graham Hick, the fine shots, good pull shots, and he's got through to the mark for 50. Very delicate stuff by Smith, and that really is becoming a bit vulnerable down there for New Zealand.
Yes, he fell well a bit wide of the off stump, indeed, as Jones did then. And you've got someone who can improvise as Smith can. That happened. It was a good shot.
Rest of the attack, and Hick immediately playing it away behind point. He won't get 4 for it.
He couldn't put it really anywhere else. It was a little bit too close to him, but he got it away wide of the cover fielder.
Chris Harris. Ball short. Oh, it's gone. And he went to cover. He nicked it as the gear to Mark Greatbatch, substituting, takes the catch. So Graham Hick is gone. New Zealand have picked up the third English wicket.
Well, I thought that was a bad shot. It was wide, his head went back, he didn't look at the ball, and he paid the penalty. Too typical, I'm afraid. Got to look at it again. I think he was a little bit close to him. Bounced a fraction more than he expected, but Hick is in this very good form. That should have been 4 runs. I can't understand why Hick gets into a line like this, but he does. 135 for 3.
And he gets a run. Again, a little short and a little wide.
And he picks up a very comfortable single. That's out Andrew Jones coming in.
There's Smith going high over that good point. Larson won't quite get to it. And Harris's first ball of the 55th over has produced an aggressive shot and a successful one from Robin Smith.
Yes, it was. He really turned that inside out, didn't he? And of course, the man sweeping on the boundary there was always going to have to chase it. He was always going further away from him, spinning away. And that's a big boundary. Good shot too by Robin Smith.
And he's stopped. Lamb had a wee foot in. And great match, the part-time keeper wasn't able to hang on to it. That could be a big blow for England.
Yes, Lamb he does supply there wide, not quite across to it. The shot was probably on all the same, but Great Batch made a valiant attempt. Of course, he's a big man, Great Batch.
Smith going down again.
Well, Jones just a little bit slow again there at mid-on. He didn't really attack the ball, just sort of waited for it to come, and he's got to be a bit quicker. Had he been, then it might have been just a little bit different.
Well, it's really neither one thing nor the other. Is not right back on the edge of the circle. Something's got to be better. Oh, that beats Watson. It's going to go all the way. It's Gavin Martin. And that was a strike for England, which takes it to 155 to 338 gone.
Lamb goes on the top. Could be caught. Is. Patel takes the catch. Jones has the wicket. And Smith is out.
Well, Smith has been looking to get inside the ball and hit it over his favourite spot, over extra cover, but there is a long off back and a long on back. And he decided, let's see if he tries to hit it over. Yes, he got too much bottom hand. He tried to get inside it. He fetched it onside, and Patel was always comfortably catching it. So England now 162 for 4 in the 41st. Here now, it's just short of the length, and look at that, just spooning it back to Watson, and watch Willie here. Look at the juggling act there. Oh, Willie managed to hold it in the end, and so at 2 deliveries, England lose 2 wickets and go to 162 for 5.
And a run for Reed immediately. Except he missed.
And watch how he charges down and manages to dab it down. And that would have actually gone down on the book as a stumping, not a run out.
So Alan Lamb on 12. Graham right behind the New Zealand side now. Lamb goes over the top. He could be caught here. Cairns lines it up. And Lamb goes.
Well, the frustration continues for England. They just have not mastered the conditions here. With the ball getting older. Lamb having not been out there for very long. Or since he was last in New Zealand, looked quite out of touch. And he charges here, going towards the ball and spoons it down towards long off. The wind just carried it on down there to young Cairns, who took it very comfortably indeed. England now in more trouble at 169 for 6. But Pringle, you can see, is still no slouch with the bat, averaging 24.
Now he showed a couple of times that he's very good with the bat. He's got underway here with a single. And Crowe has been allowed the luxury of keeping Jones on.
7th over. Oh, trying to chop it down. There's,
I think great bats may actually have dropped now.
yes, interestingly enough, Andrew Jones was making a very prolonged appeal that I think he was appealing for LBW because it actually hit the flat of Pringle's pad. Oh, big hit, could be out. He's in. Rod Latham takes the catch at mid-wicket. Garrett Pringle has held out. Andrew Jones has another wicket. And England are in further trouble in the 49th over.
Tremendous stuff. New Zealand can walk on water at the moment. It's brilliant cricket. Gosh, they've had it. They've done well today. It's been marvellous to see England, who they might have had a slightly terribly complex against after the Test series and the one days. But look how well they've done. And here's another example. Pringle gave that a bit of bat too. But today, old Rod Latham, he's as solid as the Bank of New Zealand. And there we are.
So Pringle,
189 for 7.
Reeve again with that familiar looking paddle around the goal. He's got it through.
He's got 4 runs.
That's 4, yes.
He did it rather well. It was like a surgeon making the first incision, wasn't it?
Yes, he executed that very well indeed. Andrew Jones, a little pensive. But let's watch him just helping it on its way, and he got it fine. There was plenty of carry on it. And the Freitas hits in the air. Kansas down there. He's taken it. So the Freitas has gone out for a duck. Holding out, long off. And New Zealand can do no wrong at the moment.
Yes, it's marvellous. And they're making a wonderful lunch, New Zealand. Everything's coming on. England are getting underneath it. There's a bit of a slice in that. And so we've got 5 more balls to go. But there we are. The weight was all wrong. It's sliced off. And Chris Cairns is in safe under the Bank of New Zealand. There he is. Taking it in the classical manner in front of his chest. And so, 195 paid.
And there we are, the Manhattan. It hasn't made much progress, really, has it, Henry?
Well, I don't think for England will there be. That's not as tall as Big Ben, is it? I'll be a bit disappointed in that, I think.
And 1 run to Ellingworth to get him underway. And Reeve hoiks him round. He gets it straight to Crow, and they'll only get 1. He rolls it back to Harris. So the innings has ended. The round 200 is achieved. And the players make their way off. And the crowd give them a big hand.
Well, a wonderful, wonderful piece of cricket for New Zealand. They bowled as well as at any time in the competition. And they must be the favourites to win this one now at the halfway stage.
Yes, New Zealand did marvellously well, and England scored exactly 200 in their 50 overs, a run rate of exactly 4, so New Zealand's target to win 201. 200 for 8. Things were going along very well for England. When Hick and Stewart were together, it was 95 before that second wicket fell. And then when Graham Hick was out with a score at 135, England never really recovered. Robin Smith batted very usefully, but struggled on the slow wickets. Alan Lamb didn't get going today. His first match back after a long breakthrough injury. And Dermot Reed played a useful little hand at the end to score 21 from 26 deliveries. 200 for 8. The England score in 50 overs. Deepak Patel and Chris Harris opened the bowling. Chris Harris was there at the end as well, and both of those bowlers took 2 wickets. 2 wickets also for Willie Watson. He took some stick early on from Alex Stewart and from Graham Hick, but he came back well. Chris Cairns struggled again today, sadly for him. The faster pace on the slower wicket meant that he wasn't the most effective New Zealand bowler, but Gavin Larson and Andrew Jones, with their slower paced bowling, certainly did a fine job for New Zealand again.
First ball of the innings. And great match underway. We get 1, and that brings John Wright back in the side today. Rod Latham not playing. And that'll be interesting to see just how he gets on. And he's underway. Just sliding it off the pace down to third man. So both men pick up a single in their first ball. De Freitas to bowl to John Wright. He's right inside it, John Wright. Goodness me, he's been clean bowled.
And that was exactly the way John Wright was out against Australia in the first match, wasn't it?
Yes, the very first game of the tournament. He walked inside, he hit the leg stump, and here today at the Basin Reserve, we'll have another look. Walking inside, and Bingo, leg stump.
Well, that is a mortal blow for New Zealand. That's the one thing they didn't want to happen. Equally, when it had last happened against, well, we'll come back to that in the first match against Australia. Meantime, New Zealand 5 for 1.
Oh, he's hit this one. He's gone hold it. It's 6 runs. Wow, he picked it up. Umpire Steve Randall says that's 6. And Mark Blackbatch. Well, hit it beautifully.
Well, hasn't the fun begun? That was a superb stroke. There was a man out there, a little bit too fine. There's a man at deep mid-wicket, and Great Bash took them on. Isn't that terrific? Gosh, this is going to be fun.
Yes, he timed that beautifully. It's a long way out to that boundary. Well, the Sri Lankan supporter is outside the ground, but Andrew Jones inside strokes this one into the covers. No real cloud. He timed it well, and they're going to come back for 3. This is good running. Ball clipped away. Lovely shot by Jones.
4 runs.
That's 4. He timed it beautifully. Hanging down the leg side, clipped away. So 4 more to Jones. End of the over, 20 for 1.
Loud appeal for LBW there against Mark Rakebatch. But umpire Robinson from Zimbabwe says no, and a leg bye is taken. Welcome back, Richard.
Yes, Grant. Well, Freitas was very keen on that. That's not a bad shout. Perhaps just fractionally outside the off stump. A little bit of doubt there for the umpire. And Robinson given the favour of the batsman.
Big hit. He's got under it. He should be all right. And he gets 2.
Well, he certainly got under it.
Rakebatch goes for it. And that's 4 runs. That's his first 4. And a typical Rakebatch shot.
It was, well, that ball was bullish and wide of the off stump, and that allowed Rakebatch to free his arms and go over the field.
Must be deflected away by Jones. Long chase there for Hick. Rakebatch is coming for his 3rd. That's well run. It's a long way up there. He's hit it straight, and he's hit it before. Well, that's a lovely straight hit.
Steve Randall was very lucky he didn't wear that in the face. He had to get away from that very quickly indeed. That was hit very firmly by Rakebatch. Uppish again, a bit of bottom hand. We've got this Will Randall, look at that.
Nicely played by Jones. That's a beautiful time shot. That's going to run away for 4.
And this is going high in the air. And we're on for into it. And they come back for the 3rd. And there's the 54 New Zealand, and it's only in the 11th over. Jones handsomely through the outside. A chase for Hick, and it will touch and go. It might just grab it. And they come back to 3.
Well, good morning, everybody. Before we start Don's memorial service, just some housekeeping matters that I'm obliged to read out to you. So first of all, the evacuation procedures. First of all, here from the Norwood room, the emergency exit 1 is located at the north end. Emergency 2 is located under the honours board through both doors, then exit through the corridor. Other exit points, the double doors you entered the Norwood room through, and the assembly point is in the RA Vance car park. And for those who are watching the service from the indoor nets. The emergency exit 1 is located at the south end. Make your way to the nets. Hallway, then head south to the end before exiting out towards the field. Emergency exit 2 is located at the north end. Make your way to the nets hallway, then head north to the end before exiting out towards the field. Other exit points are the door you entered through, and then following the stairs back up the RA Vance foyer. The assembly point is the field in front of the RA Vance stand. Hopefully, folks. Some other points to note. The Cricket Museum will be open after the service. There is access to the RA Vance seating deck. A memorial book will be available, and refreshments will also be available in the long room after the service. The toilets are located on the first level up the stairs from the foyer. We're now going to hear from the man himself.
Nobody has ever been able to say what cricket is quite, but life would hardly be the same without it. Perhaps that is because cricket means a number of opposite things. It means fact, and it means fancy. It is as tangible as a new scoop bat, and as intangible as a warm, sunny morning. It's as exciting as a full-throated appeal, serene as the umpire's answer. It is competition, composure, memory, and anticipation. Cricket is not all things to all people. Today it is something in more different ways, to more people than it has ever been. It is play for many, and it is work for a few. It is what no one has to do, and almost everyone wants to do it. It represents, on the one hand, challenges, opportunities declined. Its colours are as bright as the World Series clothing and as soft as the traditions of test matches. It is as loud as Eden Park with 43,000 spectators at the climax of a one-day game, and as quiet as a misty drizzle sweeping across the Basin Reserve. It is exercise and rest. It is man exuberant and man forlorn. In New Zealand today, also an awakening that brings groups of people together on a beach or a boat, around a transistor during a Christmas vacation. To me, cricket is a wonderful world.
What a great way to begin Don's final service of celebration. On behalf of Paddy Ann and the Neely family, it is my very real honour to welcome you to Don's final innings at his beloved Basin Reserve. It is an occasion, I'm sure, that will be filled with celebration and good humour, mixed inextricably, of course, with sadness and mourning as we farewell our much beloved and respected friend. My name is Roger Moses, and to my great surprise, so late in life, it is the first time that I've been given the responsibility of both captaining the team and opening the batting at the Basin. Boyhood dream finally fulfilled. It has been both mine and my wife's privilege to become close friends with Don and Paddy Ann over the 27 years since I began my role as headmaster of Wellington College. And yet, folks, it seems much longer than that. You see, as a young lad growing up in the 1960s, I was a cricket tragic. No better, I should add, than an average player, but nevertheless a fanatical follower. As with my good friend Joseph Romanos, who is going to bat next, summer truly commenced at 9:55 a.m. on Boxing Day, when on the YC network, the cheerful music heralded the blissful arrival of Sports Roundup. And around the grounds we would go to see who had won the toss and who was batting first. For the following month or so, it was continuous cricket. interrupted only by the annoying intrusion of the softball scores at the John Lennon Trophy, the interminable results at the National Bowls Championship, featuring such notables as Percy Jones from Otahu Railway or Nick Unkovich from Okahu Bay, or worst of all for me, extended commentary of the motor racing from Pukekohe, Wigram or Teretonga. But it is the voices of those cricket commentators that are etched in my memory forever. Colin Snedden and Alan Richards from Eden Park, Noel Lawson, Lynn Tucker, and Don's old Rongotai mate, Trevor Rigby from the Basin Reserve. Then there was the Scottish burr of Jim Reid from Lancaster Park, and the voice of Carisbrook, Ian Galloway, and his redoubtable sidekick, Langford Smith. Even lesser lights from around the provinces had their day in the sun. Chris Boyce from Seddon Park, Athol Garlick from Smallbone Park, and John Hakel from the Harry Barker Reserve. Day after memorable day, they described the feats of my boyhood heroes. Bob Cunis and Bob Sutton from Auckland, Tom Pooner and Bruce Paradoe from Northern Districts, Vic Pollard and Brian Yule from Central Districts. I might add, I actually got the autograph of one Mystery Morrison playing his first game for CD against Auckland. I've got that still, that autograph. It must be worth at least a couple of bucks by now. There was also Dick Motts and Graham Dowling from Canterbury, and Frank Cameron and Jack Alabaster from Otago. And then, of course, there was the Wellington Plunkett Shield winners from 1966. Bruce Murray, Bruce is here with us this morning, who subsequently became my very close friend and mentor as a principal. Barry Sinclair, another Rongotai mate of Dio, whom I saw score a brilliant century against South Africa and the blistering pace of Peter Pollock at Eden Park. There was Graham Bilby, another Rongotai old boy, who was a double international in both cricket and softball. And then there was Les Butler, who hit a massive six onto the top of the number 4 stand at Eden Park, subsequently joined in this feat by Clive Lloyd and Vivian Richards. And then there was the captain of Wellington, D.O. Neely. Drop the goods there. About 6 weeks ago, I visited Don at Te Haupai. As many will be aware, sustained conversation for Don had become difficult at that stage, and the urbane, articulate, highly perceptive raconteur we all knew so well was fading rapidly. But thanks to the marvels of Cricinfo, I was able to go through each of those games of the 65-66 season, look at the scores, and discuss the players he had known so well. His face lit up and chuckled heartily when I read, Neely caught Schofield, bowled College for 74. He laughed even more loudly when I read, Neely caught Mitchell, bowled Pooner for a duck. Cricket was a huge part of Don's life, but it was not his whole life. Rather, it provided a rich context in which his many gifts and talents could be expressed, whether as a player, a captain, a selector, a commentator, a mentor, or a friend. He touched so many of us in very different ways. We all have our own stories to tell about Don. Douglas Jardine, perhaps not the most popular visitor to Australia, once famously said this: cricket is battle and service and sport and art. What better epitaph for this kind, generous man who has given so much to so many in our community. Now, folks, if I don't finish my opening knock here, it'll soon start to resemble Jeff Boycott at his most doer. Therefore, at the fall of the first wicket, it is now time for me to make way for the incoming batsman, Don's great friend and mine, and prolific journalist, Joseph Romanos. As cricketers are all aware, batting at number 3 is a crucial position in any team. And so, Joseph, no pressure whatsoever. Thank you, Roger. Actually, Roger, I'm opening with you. I'm now a bit worried about you running between your wickets and your calling. I feel very honoured to be asked by the Neely family to speak about my friend, our friend, Don Neely today. Don was a continuing influence in my life from when I was a little boy. I remember Dad, who played senior cricket for St Pat's Old Boys and then Midland. He used to come home, they'd obviously been playing Kilbirnie, had been moaning about bloody Kilbirnie and that bloody Don Neely is the only guy in Wellington that can captain a team. Obviously things hadn't gone well for St Pat's or Midland and Dad was frustrated about it. I remember watching Don and Barry Sinclair put on 100-odd, 131 against Australia here in 1967. Barry batted brilliantly that day, but Don was excellent too, really good. I mean, I know on here there's a photo of Don when he made his first-class century, doffing his cap in the traditional manner, not really kissing the ground and hugging each other like they do now, but I thought that innings out there where he made 40-odd, 44, was great. And I remember us running between the wickets. They were very good, Barry Sinclair and Don together. And I remember he hit so many balls towards or to mid-wicket, to the boundary or towards the boundary. And I used to have him on it forever afterwards, very rudimentary cross-bat slogging. And he said, Joseph, I was ahead of my time. I was clearing my front hip and hitting the ball where there were no fieldsmen. I remember in 1974 at Kilbirnie Park, I was captaining the St Pat's College first 11. We were playing at Kilbirnie number 2. And midway during the day, Don sauntered over. He didn't come over trenchantly, but he sauntered over and said, you guys are a disgrace to your school. You need to keep it quiet. You're a very rowdy bunch. And he walked away. So I had him on about that too. And he was not embarrassed, but he used to say, it wasn't me, Joseph, Sinclair made me do it. I became a sports journalist and dealt with Don in that capacity for 20 years, and I got on very well with him. And why wouldn't you? Because he was the easiest guy to get on with. Then in the late 90s, I became a freelance journalist, so I had more time on my hands at exactly the same time as Don finished his 22 years at Rembrandt Suits. So we met up for coffee 1 or 2 or 3 times a week, and we had a lot to talk about. I've just written it down here. We talked about architecture quite a lot. Don was very interested in architecture, and we walked around Cuba Street and Courtney Place, and he talked about what buildings were there and what had been there before, and the facades and so on. He used to remark how clean the buildings were compared to when he was growing up. He thought they were filthy back then. We talked about Germany, where I'd been a squash coach for a year, and especially Krefeld, where I worked, because Krefeld, just out of Dusseldorf, was where Don spent a lot of time representing Rembrandt Suits, buying material. Yeah. So that was quite interesting as well. We talked about all sport, soccer. He talked about when he was a youngster and then a teenager, and they used to play over here on the second field, soccer, as the warm-up match to the Chatham Cup final. And he did that a couple of times and was very proud of that. We talked about softball, talked about him growing up in the eastern suburbs and being a Crawford Green champion. He said that's what the group called themselves, and how they used to imitate the rugby league team that week, or the All Blacks or the Olympics or whatever was on, and they were the Crawford Green champions. And so he had very fond memories of that. We talked about gut barging once. I was explaining to him about that Yorkshire
sport. You drink beer and stand on a mat and try and gut barge each other off the mat. He was fascinated by that, but he wasn't very good at it. Talked about Rongotai College. He was very proud of Rongotai College. I don't know the right words for it, but he started there before college. He had 2 years there before what we would now traditionally call college. Is that right, Patty Ann? Form 1 and Form 2. So he had and Barry Sinclair's name came up a lot, but so did a lot of those other people he attended Rongotai College with and kept in touch with over the years. And he talked a lot about his family, Kristen and Sean and Jason, and especially Patty Ann. Patty Ann's name came up a lot, usually in a very complimentary way, Patty Ann, but not always, but usually. And of course, we talked about cricket. And you know, he knew a lot about cricket, obviously knew a lot about cricket. He was Don, but he was very funny as well. He told me about the time, I don't know if the people in Wellington will know, Kelvin Park on a Saturday used to host 4 adult games of cricket at once, which is ridiculous because it's actually perfect ground, the size is perfect for 1 game. But it used to have 4 and the boundaries used to intersect and cross over. Don said it was a nightmare when they played senior cricket there. He said what he did, being the Kilbirnie captain, is he would place himself on the mid-wicket boundary on the fence. So he was safe from having to worry about other fields. And then he would look across to cover where Sinclair was and he would direct Sinclair back, Barry, back more, just there. Now, Barry, field there and don't move. And Barry would look down and he was standing on the next pitch, right in the middle of the next pitch. Don's sense of humour. He also told me about the time he and Barry Sinclair were batting at Corey Park one day and they were playing against a team which included John Beck. Now, John Beck was a New Zealand cricket rep, but he was famous for having maybe the hardest throw in New Zealand cricket, but a little bit erratic as well. And they decided what they would do would be to try to milk some overthrows. So what they were going to do was they were going to call no when they wanted to run, and yes if they were going to not run. And they thought this would confuse Beck and they would get overthrows. He said the first time they did it, they hit the ball to Beck. Say Don hit the ball to Beck and called no and took off. Barry heard no and stayed where he was. Beck threw it right through the middle and went for 4 overthrows. So that they had a little discussion. So it carried on, and Don said it proved to be almost impossible for both batsmen to know what they were calling. And sometimes they were both at one end, and sometimes they were both at the other. But the good thing was Beck was throwing it all over the place. He said it went on for about 4 overs, and then they decided to stop because they had no idea what was going on. He also talked about when he and Sinclair September would come around and they'd go down to Kilbirnie Park in the gale force equinox winds, and they'd be trying to put up the cricket nets for the season and belting in the pegs and putting the netting up. And Don said, I used to think, bloody Cowdery and Dexter won't be going through this in England. A bit later again, we wrote some books together. We wrote The History of the Basin Reserve, which was very dear to Don. And then we wrote, 2 Wellington blokes, we wrote The History of Lancaster Park, which was a good book, actually. I thought it was better because Lancaster Park had 2 major sports played there. And there was a lot of other stuff as well, but they were both good books. We both did the research. I did most of the writing and Don did nearly all the photographic research. And he was such a diligent researcher. He was very determined. He'd spend all day at the National Library going through microfilm and old newspapers. And I remember when we were doing the Basin Reserve book, we wanted a photo of the McKevity Shield, the school athletics championships being contested here. And we also wanted a photo of Bob Vance because he was a significant feature of the Basin Reserve. And we wanted a photo that showed the trenches out here that were dug during World War II, perhaps so that they could sit in them and shoot the Japanese as they ran across the basin or something, I don't know. Anyway, we needed to show all those things photographically. And then Don rang me up one night and said, I've done it. I've got a photo of Bob Vance throwing the discus during a McKevity Shield meet, just down there at the basin with the trenches in the background. And he said, as a coup de grace, he said, I've also got it so that the discus has left his hand, but it's still in the photo. So he's very proud of that. When we were writing Lancaster Park together, he rang me up very excited one evening, unusually excited for Don, and said, this book is going to sell bloody big in Christchurch and Roswell. Roswell is the UFO capital of America. I said, why is it going to sell big in Roswell? He said, because I have found a photo of cyclists at Lancaster Park in the 1890s racing, and there's a UFO up there. I tell you, it's so clear, I can see the eyes of the pilot. That's what he said. So actually, when he showed me the photo the next day over a coffee, he was right. There was a UFO there. We flew down to, this was a huge breakthrough. We flew down to Christchurch and we hunted for that photo. We went to the Canterbury Museum and they had a copy. You can see the UFO really clearly. And they said the original is in the Canterbury Library. So we went to the Canterbury Library, to a vault, to a back room in the vault, and they pulled out the original glass, what's it called? Plate, thank you, very good. And it had been chipped. The glass had been chipped. So you could see, Don said, don't tell anyone. So when we were publicising that book, doing some TV interviews and stuff down in Christchurch, we just said, well, the great discovery in this book is the UFO. And we left it at that. That was the front page of the press one day. I just want to break off here to talk about Patty Ann briefly, because she was with us in Christchurch when we were doing that publicity and helped us set up the book launch down there. Patty Ann was such a support to Don in every way throughout his life. What a great team they were, working together, school archives and at Wanganui or Scots College or Wellington College, and Don was very supportive. They co-authored The Summer Game, which I think is the best New Zealand cricket book that's been written. I'll be interested to hear what Jeff Blackwell has to say later, because his company published it. Don couldn't have had a more loyal supporter in every endeavour he undertook, and the way Patty Ann looked after Don at the end of his life when he was ravaged by Alzheimer's was inspiring, Patty Ann. I think you were great, really great. Don was also the captain of our Masala group. We'd meet for a curry every few weeks in Courtney Place. There'd be Mystery Morrison, Roger, Keith Quinn, sometimes Andrew Beecroft, Alan Isaac, and the odd guest. We had a lot of laughs as a group. And one evening we decided we'd go to the Green Parrot for dinner. So we went to the Green Parrot is famous in Wellington, it serves huge meals. So we went in and some of us ordered up large mixed grills and steaks, and you know, the plates are big and the meat overhangs the plate, it's huge. Don got caught up in the fervour of it all, so he ordered the mixed grill as well. Now Don wasn't an eater like us. His mixed grill came, I swear to you, he pushed round some chips and he ate a little bit of salad and that was it, while we wolfed down our meal. And there were so many disparaging comments about what a feeble effort from Neely and so on. He took it in very good grace, but about 6 months later, we went back there. And so there was a lot of stuff about, oh, here we go again, Don, just get bread this time and all this sort of stuff. So he said, no, I'll eat everything. You know, he turned up, hadn't eaten all day. He ordered scallops because he'd worked out with some research that was the smallest main meal on the menu. He ate it all quite slowly to get through it all, and was very proud of himself. So we then immediately, of course, said, well, now we need dessert. So we all had these big banana splits and sundaes. And he said, no, I'll have a dessert as well, yeah. And he ate it so slowly and methodically, but he got through it all just to prove his point, I felt. I thought it was great. Yeah, that was funny. He was a very funny guy. He kept a notebook when he was a New Zealand selector. So he was selector for 14 years, I think. So he had 14 notebooks, and it talked about each selection that was made, why they dropped someone or why they picked someone and whether they performed and why they weren't and so on. They were quite detailed and quite interesting. And I always used to have Don on about the 1985 New Zealand team that went to the West Indies. Don, how could you pick that team and send Rutherford, 19 years old, to go and open the batting against four of the most hostile fast bowlers in history? What were you thinking? What were you thinking? And I had him on a lot. I used to go on about it a lot with him just to wind him up a bit. And eventually he said, you know, Joseph, I said to him, what does your notebook say, Don? What was the justification for doing it? And he said, you know, Joseph, it's a funny thing. I've lost that notebook. He said, I've got the other 13, but I've lost that one. I don't want to hear any more about it. True. Don taught me some things. He taught me if you're going to do something, do it as well as you can. If you're going to bother to do it well. And he also taught me, if you're going to make a speech, write down what you want to say, because the worst thing is to get up and try and wing it and then sit down and go, I should have said that and I should have said that. So I follow that advice, Don. I'm nearly finished though, you'll be pleased to know. He was a very good friend to all of us here. And I think the turnout here tells you what a good person he was. And he was a mentor too. He was certainly a mentor to me and someone you could go to and get wisdom and advice when you needed it. And of course, he's very associated with cricket, which was his passion. But he was interested in music. Paddy Ann told me the other day he was a good piano player. I didn't even know that. He enjoyed the movies, loved photography, of course. I'm sure Jeff Blackwell will talk to us about that. He was a keen historian. He had stories about the 3 years he spent in Britain and the year he taught. He was a school teacher in the Wairarapa, where the young Paddy Ann attracted his attention quite quickly. He was the most dapper dresser I knew. And of course, it was he who imposed the jackets and ties rule for the Norwood room. I actually watched him march out Jeremy Coney one day because he wasn't wearing a tie. I had hundreds of coffee meetings and lunches with Don, and I can honestly say there was never one occasion, not one, where I was dressed as well as he was. And I think it's still probably true today. But 5 ties lined up here. Don had time for everyone. He was very respectful of older people, and I remember how good he was to Tom Larkin, who died last year at the age of 103. He was equally kind to youngsters, and for a few years he was selector coach at the Wellington Primary School reps. Many a child scored a century or had a good spell of bowling, and 2 or 3 days later in the mail there'd be a card from Don, 5 or 6 sentences of writing in that nice script of his, congratulating them and encouraging them to keep it up. Well, I told Paddy Ann last weekend, you must make these speeches no more than 10 minutes. I've transgressed shockingly, I'm sorry, but I wanted to make sure I fully paid tribute to Don because he was such a great man.
For a St. Pat's old boy, that was a relatively entertaining knock, so well done, Joseph. Don, as we've heard, was New Zealand's preeminent cricket historian. And as Joseph said, along with Paddy Ann, he was the author of a number of wonderful books, including The Summer Game, which we've heard about, The Basin, which he did with Joseph, 100 Summers, and of course, his magnum opus, Men in White, an original copy of which sits proudly in my lounge. Instrumental in publishing these books and many other editions of the Cricket Annual were Don and Paddy Ann's very close friends, the Blackwell family. We have a large contingent of the Blackwells with us today, and I'm going to ask Jeff to come to the crease and to speak on behalf of the Blackwell family. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Roger. Good morning, everybody. I get the speech up the right way. Yes, I had the great good fortune to know Don for 50 of my 56 years. I'm the son of his longtime publishers, Janet and John, and through that connection and countless publishing projects, our lives have been woven together with the Neelys. Together with Dio and Paddy Ann and Sean, Jason, Kristen, and all the family. They've been our dearest friends. So how to distill, into a few words what this special man meant to us. For me, he was like a second father. I loved him dearly. I first met him on a sunny day in 1972. It was kind of it's a strange thing. I was only 6 or 7, but I have a very clear memory of meeting him that day. He was coming to talk to my parents about writing the first DB cricket annual. And my father had obviously primed me with what a gun cricketer Dio was, and I was waiting for him on the driveway. And I have a very clear memory of him pulling up in his car and getting out of the car, and the smoothly dressed kind of operator getting out of the car and walking towards me with his signature bow-legged sort of swagger and putting his hand out to me and saying, "It's great to meet you, Tiger." And he did greetings well, Dio. He did a lot of things well. The meeting obviously went well, and he took on the role of writing the annual, and so began a very happy publishing partnership. And as the years passed, I got dragged into the family business and eventually joined full-time. And when I started working in the business, Dio stopped calling me Tiger and started calling me AL, which was short for Apprentice Lad. It was inspired by the long-suffering shop boy Granville, who worked for Arkwright in open all hours. And Dio found the comparison endlessly amusing, and the name has stuck with me for most of my life. But if Dio was Arkwright, Patty Ann was Nurse Gladys Emanuel. Always there with a kind word for me, and a sharp retort for the old curmudgeon if he stepped out of line. We enjoyed these nicknames over the years, and I often tried to rebrand Don with a nickname. Used to call him El Presidente for a while. More latterly, we've called him Short Steps, but he's always really only just been Dio. As I said, Dio did a lot of things well. Big things like playing first-class cricket, captaining Wellington and Auckland. Big things like writing the history of New Zealand cricket and countless other books. Big things like selecting the New Zealand cricket team during one of its most successful eras. Big things that led to the scoreboard at this beautiful ground being named in his honor to an MBE. There's so much I could tell you about the books Don wrote, about the care and thought he put into writing them. But he wouldn't want me to go on too long, so I'm just going to talk about 2. Men in White, The History of New Zealand Cricket, a book that my father would say without question is the finest book that he ever published. It was a monumental achievement. It took Don, with considerable help from Patty Ann, 5 years to research and write it. The captions alone in the big limited edition were as long as, had the same amount of words as you would find in the average length biography. It was just a huge project. And the launch was undoubtedly one of the pinnacle moments of Don's life and Patty Ann's. I'll never forget him standing in the room at Ellerslie Racecourse with the pictures, with the pages from the limited edition decorating the wall, standing on the stage, holding Patty Ann's hand, both full of emotion as the crowd in the room gave them a standing ovation. Among them, every living Test captain. It was an amazing experience. And the day after, Dio and I had to go on the road to go and publicize it. And the old man in those days was a crazy promoter. Chats, who's here, will remember having to go to just about every bookshop in New Zealand when we did his book. And something similar was happening with the promotion of Men in White. There used to be a radio station and newspaper in just about every town in the country. And Dio had established this sort of patter to talk about the book. People would go in, and the journalist that was interviewing him would almost always say, how long did it take you to write this book? And his answer always was, well, they say the gestation period of an elephant is 5 years. And all I can say is now I know how Mother Elephant feels. And anyway, I used to listen to this about 25 times a day. And we'd sort of pull up outside the radio station and he'd say, "Hey, Al, get the book out of the car." And he would sort of strut off down the footpath, and he had this sort of special jacket that Rembrandt had made for him. And he'd go in and get on with it, start slaying them with the old mother gestation period of the elephant story. And we'd been through God knows how many towns, and we pulled up in Wanganui at the Wanganui Chronicle. And as usual, Dio charged in, launched into the old gestation of the elephant story. And the journalist said, "Well, that's very interesting, Don. But actually, the question I want to ask you is about your vasectomy." And Dio said, "What? I'm here to talk about Men in White." He said, "No, I remember that you were one of the first men in New Zealand to have a vasectomy. And you wrote about it in the newspaper. And research has been done on rats. And they're finding that 2 years after the vasectomy takes place, that there's common occurrence with their balls dropping off." Would you care to comment? And Dio looked stunned and just said, "Well, I'm just glad I'm not a rat." Anyway, have I told you the one about the mother elephant? The other book is The Summer Game. Joseph's right. That was the book that really reflected, his true love for the game, and also his true love for Paddy Ann, because after all the books, all the years of Dio taking all the credit, and he deserved a lot of credit. He worked so bloody hard. But that was the book that both of your names were on the front cover of, and I think it was the most beautiful book that he ever made. But the thing with Don, I was saying he was brilliant at big things. He was brilliant at small things too. He had a grace about him. As Joseph said, he dressed well. He spoke well. He laughed easily and generously. And he had fantastic manners. But the thing for me that really distinguished him, as for so many of us, I'm sure, was his kindness and the care he showed for all of us, his friends and loved ones. Our son, Henry, who Dio loved, as indeed he did all our kids, Elizabeth and Ben. But Henry said to me the other day, after Dio passed, "It's brilliant that there's a scoreboard named in his honor. But the thing that was always so special about him was his thoughtfulness. The handwritten letters of encouragement he would send after he or Ben got a few runs. The same ones he sent to me when I was on my OE in London in my early 20s, encouraging me to read poetry, to go to shows, to listen to live music, to fall in love. It was the newspaper articles he cut out and mailed up to us. It was the latest wisdom magazines he would take the trouble to put at the end of the bed when we came to stay at Waipapa Road. It was 1,000 small kindnesses that reflected a good and kind man who only ever wanted to be a tail breeze for all of us, his friends. How lucky we were to call this man our friend. When Don had finally had enough of writing cricket books, I persuaded him to help me with one kind of final publishing project. It was called Milk, and it stood for Moments of Intimacy, Laughter, and Kinship. It was a project founded on a global photographic competition conceived to find images that celebrate humanity. It was a major undertaking. We received 40,000 entries from 164 countries. And Dio and I had the job of whittling them down to just 300 winning pictures. It was a huge task, but one we loved doing together. He came to stay with us in Auckland, and each day we would drop the kids off to school, put a bit of Frank Sinatra on in the car, and head to a warehouse we called the Milk Shed, where sacks of entries would be waiting for us. It was a bit overwhelming at times, and there were moments when he questioned whether he was truly qualified to judge these images, many of them captured by award-winning photographers, among them Pulitzer Prize winners. But the project's subject matter resonated deeply with Don. And with each passing day, as we laughed and sometimes shed tears about the moments and stories these pictures revealed, it was obvious that he was the perfect choice for the role. Because at its heart, that project was about simply celebrating what it is to be part of a family, to share the gift of friendship, more than anything else, to be loved. These were things Dio Neely understood well, and we loved him for it. Rest well, Dio.
We've just heard from Jeff how Don shared his life with so many people and became part of their families. But at this stage, it's appropriate to emphasise that for Don, he was fiercely proud of his own family. His beloved wife of 61 years, dear Patty Ann, his children and their partners, Kristen and Chris, Sean and Ange, Jason and Chelsea. And he was very proud of his 7 grandchildren, Frank and Harry, Salome and Robert, Zambia, Ziggy and Otis. We're now into the middle order. And I guess it was in the middle phase of Don's life that his grandchildren began to assume such an important role. They will now share some of their precious memories. So I invite Don's grandchildren to come forward.
Thanks everyone for gathering here as we reflect on and celebrate the most extraordinary life. Growing up, I watched my grandfather wander between worlds. Don would give the same respect and attentiveness to all those that would come into his life. He was as compassionate and charismatic with passing strangers as he was with the sporting greats, the high achievers, and the treasured friends he was so liberally blessed with. His egalitarianism is something I've held in great esteem and something that I've always hoped to mirror in my own life. As a man, Don was a source of admiration. The lessons he displayed through temperament, consistency, dignity, and humility have influenced and helped to shape the lives of many. In my moments of weakness and self-doubt, his example is something that brings clarity and reassurance. It is my great hope that the legacy of his character will someday be reflected in the character of my children and my grandchildren. As a grandson, Don was a cherished companion. I look back to the little moments that have made a life and a friendship with him. The chocolate-covered faces at the movies, the exasperated patience with woeful batting form, the stoic sideline support in the face of Wellington Southerlies. I think of the early morning finals and the breakfasts in bed, the family dinners and the coffees in the sun. I hear jazz on a Sunday afternoon and taste daiquiris at Christmas time. I think of the pride I felt introducing him to my great loves. And of course, I think of the cricket. Having a role model like Don to guide me will forever remain one of the greatest gifts I have received. And having a friend in Don to support me will further remain one of the greatest pleasures in my life. Today, as we look back on an immense 86 years, I am filled with gratitude that I was able to spend so many of mine in such fine company. When at last the day departs and shadows rake this land, I close my eyes and dream of you with picture cradled in my hand. In infancy and manhood, you've carved the way I grow. And as tears roll from cheek to chin, I only wish you knew. That day will roll to month and year, and memory bend and fade. But love that was will still be there, and debts I owe be paid. From my cradle to my grave, through heartache and through pain, the light you cast will see me through. Your sunlight break the rain. Thank you.
Kia ora. I will be reading a sonnet from Shakespeare's Cymbeline. My passion for Shakespeare was absolutely in part inspired by Dio. Fear no more the heat of the sun, nor the furious winter's rages. Thou thy worldly task hast done, home art gone, and tame thy wages. Golden lads and girls all must, as chimney sweepers, come to dust. Fear no more the frown of the great, thou art past the tyrant's stroke. Care no more to clothe and eat, to thee the reed is as the oak. The sceptre, learning, physic, must all follow this and come to dust. Fear no more the lightning flash, nor the all-dreaded thunderstone. Fear not slander, censure rash, thou hast finished joy and moan. All lovers young, all lovers must consign to thee and come to dust. No exorciser harm thee, nor no witchcraft charm thee. Ghost unlaid forbear thee, nothing ill come near thee. Quiet consummation have, and renowned be thy grave.
Today I'm reading a passage by Angelo Patri, which Dio found in a Chicago bookstore and truly loved. In one sense, there is no death. The life of a soul on earth lasts beyond his departure. You will always feel that life touching yours, that voice speaking to you, that spirit looking out of others' eyes, talking to you in the familiar things he touched, worked with, loved as familiar friends. He lives on in your life and in the lives of all others that knew him. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ziggy, Don's grandson. Who was Dio to me? Dio was a role model. He always put family first no matter what. He would always have a smile on his face when he saw us. My favorite memories with Dio was all the amazing stories that he'd tell us in such tiny detail. I'm very grateful for the years I've had with Dio and will never forget how much he loved me and how much I learned from him. Lots of love, Ziggy.
Thanks, guys. Dio loved you all a great deal. And Salome, as a former English teacher, I'm delighted to hear Shakespeare read so beautifully. We're in the middle of a test match, or in fact, it's just begun. Some of you may have watched some of it last night, and I am very pleased to say that the Wellington College boy, Tom Blundell, is again not out, batting extremely well. He was well taught at Wellington College, as of course was Harry. It's therefore entirely appropriate that we should ask a well-known former Test cricketer to speak on behalf of New Zealand cricket. Sounds almost churlish to describe Martin as a lower order batsman, but that's where you're featuring today, mate. And I guess that's where you batted many of your tests for New Zealand. For the very few non-cricketers in our midst, Martin was, of course, a highly successful opening bowler at Test, one day and first class level. after his playing career, Martin was CEO of New Zealand Cricket and also head of the team that organised the successful World Cup rugby in 2011. Martin played many times at this ground. I think I checked up, I think you played 5 tests here, and I think 4 or 5 one-days as well. And so it's entirely appropriate, Martin, that we should welcome you back to the Basin to pay a tribute to Dio on behalf of New Zealand Cricket. Martin Sned.
Thank you, Roger. But to be honest, it's a bit of a letdown. Patty Ann left a message on Annie's phone the other day and said that I'd be batting number 3. And then you come along as captain out of nowhere. I don't know anything about your cricketing background, and suddenly I'm down at 10 and you're opening. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Patty Ann, I would not have contemplated turning up today without a tie on. I've seen you in action too many times to know that, like Roger, I think, mentioned about, or Joseph, about Jeremy Coney being marched out. I think you've done that to me occasionally too. So a lot of care went into making sure. And I see you had spares there just in case too, which was a trait of yours. You know, you turn up to be looked after in the Norwood room, and if you didn't have a tie on, Patty Ann would march you out, and out the back there'd be a whole wardrobe that you could choose from. As Roger said, it's actually an honour for me to be here representing New Zealand cricket, and the Chief Executive, David White, is here. The former chair of the Board of New Zealand Cricket, Greg Barclay, who's the chair of the International Cricket Council, the ICC, is here. And appropriately, given Don's history, the selector of the Black Caps, Gavin Larson, as well. And I think we're all here because we want to pay tribute to Don, recognising his contribution to cricket, but more so because of the person that he was. But I do want to start, and Jeff and Joseph have done this as well, as by just acknowledging you. And sometimes there's a temptation on these days when you're eulogising, in this case Don, not to put it in the right context. It was a life partnership, 61 years you mentioned, I think, Roger. And my impression always, having known the two of you for 42 years, was that there wasn't a hierarchy. It was you and him, and all of the achievements that we sometimes just attribute to Don, you were such an enormous part of. And then as things were pretty tricky at the end, and I remember coming here, and Don would be here, but struggling a bit, and that you would ensure that he engaged in conversation, but you would stand beside him and make sure that he got safely through the conversations. And, you know, someone like me would walk away from that and feel like Don actually had been part of that conversation without quite knowing whether he actually had been, but you made sure that it felt that way. Don knew more about the history of cricket than anyone I know. We got on famously because I love the history of cricket as well. So we could have lots of conversations about fairly obscure stuff, and that was neat. And the work that the two of you have done, supported by the Blackwell family, and John and Janet are friends of mine as well, capturing that history, that whakapapa of cricket in New Zealand is just such an amazing legacy. I knew him initially, of course, because he was a Black Caps selector. 14 years he held that role, started in 1979. My career started in 1980. And the first 7 years he was a selector, with Frank Cameron being the convener. And then he took over that job for another 7 years or so. Sadly, I'd say, Paddy Ann, that in the times during the 1980s, I could see that his memory was struggling a bit when he was announcing teams they'd picked, and he'd clearly completely forgotten my name. And picking up what Joseph had to say, I really demand to look at those 13 notebooks that still exist, because some of those decisions were frankly inexplicable, but there you go. But he would, you know, when he told you weren't in the team, the fact that, you know, you had someone standing beside you that had just killed off your lifelong dream, and he was saying you're no longer part of this team for the time being, it was impossible to feel any anger towards him, because you just looked at him and you knew this person just epitomised cricket, and occasionally he was right. I did have a lot of fun with both him and Frank Cameron, because there was a fair bit of time when I was in the Black Caps and I was in the 12, but was sort of on the edge as to whether I'd be playing each game. And in those days, what would happen is that the team would be out there warming up, and with about half an hour to go, you knew that either Don or Frank Cameron would wander around and tap you on the shoulder and let you know that you weren't playing. And so I generally kept an eye out for where they were during that time, and gradually developed a game where I would ensure, as I saw them walking towards me, that I in fact would start walking around the ground, practicing catching and whatnot, and making it as uncomfortable as possible for them, given what they were doing to me. Whitey and I have talked a number of times in the last few days about the fun we had each year receiving the annual DB Cricket Annual and flicking through it, and you know, and I think we both still look at it and go back in it, and just it's a great way of capturing those memories of the times that we were involved. And the Men in White is just such an amazing achievement, and in particular the special, the big books. How many of them, Jeff, were printed? 1,000. And my dad and I jointly purchased one. I was a lawyer, and I knew under law that if you jointly purchased something with someone and they died, that you automatically took full ownership. So I got the book at a 50% discount, which was good. But that, you know, that holds and continues to hold a place of honour in New Zealand cricket, and also in my home. And the lovely thing is that Annie gets that, you know, she sees all these cricket books and she understands why it's lovely to be surrounded by this. And just look around the Norwood room too, because this is the two of you played a big role in just establishing how this room, when it was renovated, looks and has felt since 1981, I think, wasn't it? In the Cricket Museum, which is having a renaissance now, that really important establishment capturing, as I say, our history and our whakapapa. The two of you have put such enormous time into that, and you just get the feeling with that it's just going to keep going forward. So Don was made a life member of New Zealand cricket after he finished selecting and dropping me, and he absolutely earned that. And then a few years later, he became president of New Zealand cricket, 2006. He actually almost became president in 2003. He was an obvious choice, but and presidential sort of appointments aren't meant to be contestable processes, but it's sort of, as we moved towards that 2003 appointment, it became clear that John R. Reid had sort of developed a desire to become the president of New Zealand cricket at that time. And Don recognised that. And so he came to John Anderson and me and said, listen, appoint JR, and, you know, if it be my time will come later, which is what he did. And then in 2006, he became the president, and for a 3-year period. In the middle of that, Annie and I had the fun of going to the Cricket World Cup in the West Indies with Paddy Ann and Don, and having a neat period of time there, highlighted by every time we went through airport security, Paddy Ann had this bodysuit on that, for whatever reason, just triggered off the alarms. And so we were treated like terrorists at every airport in the West Indies in America. But anyway, there were moments I remember, like playing test matches, as you mentioned, Roger. I was involved in a few tests down here, usually as 12th man. And it was frequent during the test matches that Paddy Ann and Don would invite Martin and Jeff Crow and me, maybe one or two others, up for dinner in the middle of the test in Waipapa Road, and that was lovely. And that was often a moment also to go downstairs and have a look at the preparations that were happening for whatever publication was underway at that time. And you got a real sense at that time, just the amount of incredible hard work and organisation and love that was going into that particular publication. So to finish up, it's been a neat friendship and association over such a long period of time. It doesn't finish because, you know, we carry on. But I think you're hearing Paddy Ann from me, from Jeff, from Joseph, and from others, just that the giant of a man that he was within cricket. And so we just say thank you to him and to you.
Thanks very much, Martin, for that wonderful tribute. Despite the deep wounds that have been inflicted on your psyche through being dropped over the years by Don, I'm sure that counselling can be arranged for you. But look, thanks very much for the notebooks. We've already heard a bit about Rongotai College, and I have to say I feel just a bit of a turncoat here. You see, while I was at Wellington College for many years, I had the great pleasure and privilege of running Rongotai College for a term last year when my good friend Kevin Carter had a sabbatical. And I have to say, I absolutely loved it. And I could understand why Rongotai College played such a large part in the life of the Neely family. Don was, I think, captain of the first 11 football, first 11 cricket, and he was deputy head prefect. He was head prefect, was he? We'll sort it out outside afterwards, Paddy, and that's... I'll stick with my story. He was deputy head prefect, bettered only by his son, Jason, who was head prefect at Rongotai College. As I've said, Dio's family played such a huge part in his life, and it's entirely appropriate that we should bring this innings to a close by asking his beloved son, Jason, to speak on behalf of the family. Jace.
The middle order today was a lot like Dio, wasn't it? Flashy, fast, but great quality. And unaccustomed to batting number 11. I'm with you, Sneds. I don't know how that happened, but anyway, we'll talk to you, Roger, about that afterwards. Oh, I need some glasses here. It's a bloody tough gig, this one. I think Dio probably holds the world record for giving the most eulogies at cricketers' funerals over the years. So to be asked to give a eulogy at his, or to offer to give a eulogy at his, is a bit of a challenge. I thought I actually had it under wraps because I did his eulogy for his 80th up at Wellington College. And I thought I'd take those notes and put them to a side, but Pad cleaning out the house at Waipapa Road somehow throwing them out. So at 11 o'clock last night, I had to start afresh on a new speech. Oh, sorry, AV guys, here, can I grab the little clicker, please? Look, to the very end, Don loved cricket. I was lucky enough to be at the last, thank you. I was lucky enough to be at the last match he attended. And I was really overwhelmed with just the sheer enjoyment he derived from the occasion. The pleasure he took at watching other people succeed, the smiles of the boundary rows and the joy that he took from banter with other spectators. At the end of proceedings, he made his way over to the player of the day and with a kind of schoolboy enthusiasm, congratulated him. And he'd already been diagnosed with dementia then. And I stood back, I cried a little with happiness, just marveling at this pure enjoyment and love he had for this game for so many years. Now, this game wasn't at the Basin. It wasn't at Lords or the MCC or Kilburnie Park. There we go. It was at Port England, number 7. We'd driven for about an hour and a half to get there. And it was the Hibiscus under 13A team versus Cornwall under 13B. We arrived there and we ended up on the wrong side of the field, and the Oak was known for his short steps at those stages. So we had him in a wheelchair and we pushed him probably the length of Kilburnie Green across this park. He finally made it there late to the game, as his grandson, pictured here, Otis, was bowling. We were accompanied there by a handful of cows, 16 kids and 12 spectators. His grandson Otis, having made 46 off 18 balls. I'd never seen Don prouder at any cricket ground on any occasion, anywhere in the world. Prouder because finally someone in the Neely stock could actually hit the ball straight. But I love this photo. This week I've poured over thousands and thousands of photos. And this one's by far my favorite. It shows a gentle, beautiful man, his love for a game. And the game that many friendships has gifted him over the years. On behalf of the family, I'd like to sincere thanks to everyone who's given up their time today to join us here in the Norwood Room and the cricket nets downstairs for those of you who are watching. Thank you to the many people who travelled around New Zealand and around the world. I want to arrange it here. Thank you to Cricket Wellington, New Zealand Cricket, for all the support you guys have given him over the years, to Don, our family. It would have meant the world for Don to see all you here today in his Norwood room, kicking off at 11 o'clock on a Friday, looking straight down over the bowler's arm. And thank you to the many people who've helped put on such a wonderful day as well, and who made contact this week. It's been truly overwhelming and humbling to hear the many beautiful tributes to Dio. Gentle, kind, polite, gracious, caring, infectious passion. School kids who taught in the 60s to say he was their favourite teacher. Generations of men and women who've called or written or texted saying that Don's ongoing encouragement when they were a kid at a park encouraged them to fall in love with the summer game. Great cricketers who have called to say that a little bit of advice helped them achieve their goals over the years. Administrators expressing their thanks for Don, and dear friends sharing great yarns. thought a lot this week about what cricket was to Dio. And it was never about the accolades he received. Cricket was just a game he fell in love with when he was 12. And it was a way for him to make friends. It was as simple as that. He became a good cricketer, but he worked very hard at developing a great cricketing mind. And this allowed him to freely share his knowledge and help others. And that was what Dio was all about. He loved doing this. And and I guess the reward for him was not the accolades, but the deep, enduring friendships from all of you and other people he's touched over the years. Dio's life was about friendship. And it's with much sadness, several of his dearest friends that he's known for 50, 60, 70 years aren't here today. In particular, to Barry Sinclair, Spiro Zavos, Janet and John Blackwell, Derek and Helen Johnson, Jim Clark, John Martin, John Margaret Button, Harry Lama, and Barbara Cole. I hope you're all watching and enjoying this. Dio loved each and every one of you deeply over 50, 60, 70 years. Our family loves you and thank you for your unselfish friendship. To Dio's grandson, Frank, in Melbourne today, look forward to seeing you soon. Well, there are many of Dio's great mates who are no longer with us. There are two I'd like to acknowledge, two very, very special friendships. One was Bob Vance and the other was Mike Dormer. You both meant the world to Dio, and I'm sure he's tracked you down. In fact, between the three of them, they now have a pretty good scoreboard to go with a great cricketing ground and a decent stand. Combine that with their collective administrative, selectorial and fundraising skills, and I reckon by next week they'll probably have Bradman, WG and Sobers lined up on the team. Of course, the team will be called the Wellington Willows Cricket Club. Black, gold, a slither of pink as the tie colours, and undoubtedly it's the club we'd all want to belong to one day when we pass through the pearly gates. So to everyone, thank you for your time this week. Thank you for your support. It means the world to us. Just over 3 years ago, I came down to Wellington to see Pad and Dio. Dio had just recently been diagnosed with dementia. I hadn't really noticed it yet. I just thought he was getting on a bit. For those of you who've seen our house, and a few people have talked about it today, this is where all those books were written. It's the basement. It's a wonderful treasure trove of cricket, a place to rival the Cricket Museum. There's hundreds of books. I think there's 30,000 photos that we need to find a way to document and keep in cricket. There's just great cricket things in every corner. You know, a pair of Dennis Lee batting gloves, Squiddick Vetamuni's white hat with bloodstains on it when he got sconned one day. You know, there's no memorabilia up on the walls. There's just great little cricket things everywhere you look. There's walls. Oh, geez. No. Okay, there's walls and rafters with all these little notes plastered everywhere. There was this one I kept seeing when I was downstairs, and it was this one, 6021. 6021. There were 12 of them in this small room. Definitely wasn't, you know, someone's average. You know, there was a few runs less than Bradman had scored, and a lot more than I'd scored. But no, 6021's the postcode for the house that Dio had lived at for over 50 years. And I'd written it down a bunch of times to remember. You know, it was then I realized that we were soon going to lose this beautiful mind that we all loved. So I extended my stay, spent another couple of weeks with Dio. We cleaned out the basement, tidied it all up, and I decided to say my goodbyes to him a few years ago when he was the man I remembered. It was a very, very dear and special time. And in these rafters with all these notes were kind of the footprint for how Dio lived his life, you know, on cricket. Guys, can you do this manually and I'll just wave you? Keep going down past the one after that, 6021. All these little notes and on cricket. There's a little pin up that the gentleman will get to shortly. The rewards of cricket and life too, I expect, are worth very little if you don't play the game by the etiquette as well as the rules. And didn't Dio do both? I remember being made captain of the first 11 at Rongotai. He called from a work trip saying congratulations and that he had a present on return. You know, a new pair of gloves. My own pads couldn't possibly be a new bat. I think I'd just been given one of Bruce's hand-me-downs that was serving me well. No, it was the rule book of cricket. Now you're captain, you need to know these better than the umpires, he said. And would sit there in the evenings and would review the rule book of cricket as a 16-year-old in between proofreading scoreboards for the DB Cricket Annual. You know, hot on the heels of that cracking gift was another one. It was a list, a typed list, which was a big thing in those days, so it'd taken time. It was titled, "The Little Things You Must Do to Win." Ensure your team are presented an hour before changing into whites. Introduce yourself to the umpires, coach and captain before play. Clean the changing rooms before you leave. Thank the groundsman. Carry extra sprigs for boots. Clap all players on and off the field and on it wet. In those 2 years, we won many games, not because we were better players, but because we did etiquette and we knew the rules better. It made a difference in our performance then, and it continues to make a difference, I think, now in my life. I'll try this again. Yeah, a couple on. Thanks, guys. Dio is the embodiment of this quote. Dio had a restraint, a dignity, a self-respect. He had a discipline, manners, and an endeavour. He was, if you like, old-fashioned in the way that he's always been a servant to the game, and his team's secondary was his own performance. In return, cricket has rewarded him more than most with life and true friendships and laughter and love. Yeah, okay, keep going. And one more. Okay, no, back one. Yep. Another little known fact, being the great statistician that he was. The first testicular guard was used in cricket in 1874, and the first helmet 100 years later. Probably my favourite stat that I saw down there. It took 100 years for men to realise their brain could be almost as important. The next one, please. A beautiful little snippet on the basin, which was Dio's fourth love behind friends and family and cricket. The Basin Reserve has been close to me for almost 60 years, and this was written 15 years ago. For anyone with even a modest sensibility, it is a magic place of memories, a pleasure ground of the present, and a fount of optimism for the future. Don loved the Basin. He spent a lifetime fighting for small and large battles here and working closely with many individuals in this group to help turn it today, which is, in my view, and many of yours, undoubtedly the world's best international cricket test ground. To everyone who's been on this journey with him, with the Basin, thank you. For Dio, the Boxing Day tests, or the Putakawa tests as he referred to them, were a 5-day celebration of all things old and new, and a true highlight of the year. 21 years, I think, of lunches in the Norwood Room, reunions of great past cricket teams, and a celebration of all things cricket. To see Dio in this environment was special. Next one. As he would always say, more than any other sport, cricket depends on its past to propagate its future. When we were planning this funeral and thinking of holding it on holiday Matariki, I called a dear friend, a kamatua of mine, of ours, and asked if it was appropriate. Absolutely, he said. He couldn't pick a better day. For him, Matariki, which is a new holiday for all of us, it's the end of a period. And it's a day to reflect on, not only reflect on what's gone on in the last 12 months, but also to pass that knowledge over to a new generation. Knowing your father, he said, I couldn't think of a better day to say your goodbyes, not only to hand his knowledge over to you and your family, but also to the wider cricketing community, and challenge them to keep it going. Happy Matariki, everybody. May we all acknowledge the wonderful life that Dio's lived and built. And finally, our family. Frank, Harry, Grace, Robert, Zambia, Ziggy, and Otis. He was immensely proud. He was immensely proud of each and every one of you. To Pad, that's all good. To Pad, you and Dio were like Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong. Brilliant individually, but so much better together. And after 60 years of marriage, what a wonderful world you built. Dio was a good man. He played both cricket and life the way they should be played. He was my father. He was my friend. He was with me every day, and I'll miss him immeasurably. I don't want to say goodbye. So Dio, I say thank you and well played.
Thanks, Jace, for that moving tribute. We almost come to the end of Don's final innings. You'll see some cricket bats down the centre of the aisle. And when Don departs the Norwood room for the last time, we'll ask those at the end of the rows, please, to hold the bats up so that Don can make his final exit in the context which meant so much to him. But before we ask the pallbearers to come forward and to take Don out, Patty Ann has asked me if I would conclude the service in prayer. And I invite you to join me as I pray. Dear Lord, as we reflect on the life of our dear friend Dio, we give thanks to you for the wonderful impact he has had on so many of us here today, for the kind words said in season, for the listening ear, for the friendship extended to those in need of a friend, for the wise advice offered without judgment or sanctimony. We thank you too for the sacrificial example of love shown by Patty Ann, especially as the last years of Don's life have become increasingly challenging. May we all learn from this couple what devotion, care, and compassion really means in practical terms. And Lord, we pray for those who grieve, that you may bring comfort to them as they treasure the memory of Don and move on to the next stage of their lives. May the sun shine warm upon your face, the rain fall soft upon your fields, and until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Could I ask you all to stand, please?
What it was, this is how a friend. He's gonna turn me down and say, can't we be friends?
Yes, I thought I knew the weight from a chef. But oh man, this is how the story ends. I'll let her turn me down, say can't we be friends? But I acted like a kid out of school. What a fool. Now, see, this is the end. I let her turn me down, say can we be friends? Oh, why should I care? No, she did for me the air. Why should I cry every sigh and wonder why? Yes, I should have seen the single stop. What a flop. This is how the story ends. She's gonna turn me down. Say, can we be friends?
Why should I care? But he gave me the air.
And why should I cry? Ever sigh, wonder why?
I should have seen the signal to stop. What a flop. This is how the story ends. I let him turn me down and say, can we be, 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 can we be friends?
Oh, yes.
My story is much too sad to be told, but practically everything leaves me totally cold. The only exception I know is the case when I'm out on a quiet spree, fighting vainly the old ennui, and I suddenly turn and see your fabulous face. I get no kick from champagne. Mere alcohol doesn't thrill me at all. So tell me, why should it be true that I get a kick out of you? Some get a kick from cocaine. I'm sure that if I took even one sniff, that would bore me terrifically too. But I get a kick out of you. I get a kick every time I see you standing there before me. I get a kick, though it's clear to me you obviously don't adore me. I get no kick in a play too high with some guy in the sky is my idea of nothing to do. Yet I get a kick every time I see you standing there before me. I get a kick, though it's clear to me you obviously don't adore me. I get no kick in a plane, flying too high with some guy in the sky is my idea of nothing to do. Yet I get a kick out of you. I get a kick out of you. The weather is frightening, the thunder and lightning seem to be having their way. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a lovely day. The turn in the weather will keep us together, so I can honestly say that as far as I'm concerned, it's a lovely day. And everything's okay.
Yes, isn't this a lovely day to be caught in the rain? You were going on your way, now you've got to remain. Yes, just as you walk away, leaving me all at sea. The clouds broke, they broke, and oh, what a break for me. Babe, now I can see the sun up high. They were calling us down. I can't see where you and I could be cozy and warm. Let the rain be to better, but it really doesn't matter. The sky is so gray. Baby, as long as I can be with you, it's a lovely day.
Isn't this a lovely day to be caught in the rain? You were going on your way, now you've got to remain. Just as you were going, leaving me all at sea.
The clouds broke, they broke, and oh, what a break for me. I can see the sun up high, though we're caught in the storm. I can see where you and I could be cozy and warm. Let the rain pitter patter, but it really doesn't matter if the skies are gray. Long as I can be with you, it's a lovely day. I can see the sun up high, oh, we're caught in the storm.
We're caught in the storm.
I can see where you and I could be cozy and warm.
Cozy and warm.
Let the rain pitter patter, but it really doesn't matter if the skies are gray. Long as I can be with you, it's a lovely day. Long as I can be with you, it's a lovely day. The way you wear your hat, the way you sip your tea, the memory of all that. No, no, they can't take that away from me. The way your smile just beams, the way you sing off key, the way you haunt my dreams. No, no, they can't take that away from me. We may never, never meet again on the bumpy road to love. Still, I'll always, always keep the memory of the way you hold your knife, the way we danced till 3, the way you've changed my life. No, no, they can't take that away from me. No, they can't take that away from me.
Baba do 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 do, the way you wear your hat, the way you sip your tea, a memory of all that. No, no, they can't take that away from me. The way your smile just beams, the way you sing off key, the way you haunt my dreams. No, no, you can't take that away from me. We may never, never meet again on the bumpy road to love. Still, I always, always keep the memory of you. The way you hold your knife, the way we dance till 3. Where you changed my life. No, no, they can't take that away from me. No, they can't take that away from me. Swing it, boy.
We may never, 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 never meet again on the bumpy road to love.
Swing it, Ella.
Still, I'll always, always keep the memory of
Yeah, man.
the way you hold tonight, the way we dance till 3.
Oh, yes. The way you changed my life. No, no, they can't take that away from me.
No, they can't take that away from me.
Beat that again, dearie, please.
No, they can't take that away from me.
Heaven, I'm in heaven, and my heart beats so that I can hardly speak. And I seem to find the happiness I see when we're out together, dance cheek to cheek. Yes, heaven, I'm in heaven, and the cares that hung around me through the week seems to vanish like the gambler's lucky streak. When we out together, dancing cheek to cheek. Oh, I'd love to climb to mountain, reach the highest peak, but it doesn't thrill me half as much as dancing cheek to cheek. Oh, I'd love to go out fishing in a river or a creek, but I don't enjoy it half as much as dancing cheek to cheek. Now, mama, dance with me. I want my arms about you, the charms about you will carry me through. Yes, heaven, I'm in heaven, and my heart beats so that I can hardly speak. And I seem to find the happiness I seek when we out together, dancing cheek to cheek. Take it, Ella, swing it.
Heaven, I'm in heaven, and my heart beats so that I can hardly speak, and I seem to find the happiness I seek when we're out together, dancing cheek to cheek. Heaven, I'm in heaven, and the cares that hung around me through the week seem to vanish like a gambler's lucky streak when we're out together, dancing cheek to cheek. Oh, I love to climb a mountain and to reach the highest peak, but it doesn't thrill me half as much as dancing cheek to cheek. Oh, I love to go out fishing in a river or a creek, but I don't enjoy it half as much as dancing cheek to cheek. Come on and dance with me. I want my arm about you. The charm about you will carry me through to heaven. I'm in heaven, and my heart beats so that I can hardly speak, and I seem to find the happiness I seek when we're out together, dancing cheek to cheek.
Yes,
Dance with me. I want my arms about you. The charm about you will carry me through to heaven. I'm in heaven. And my heart beats so that I can hardly speak. And I seem to find the happiness I see when we're out together, dancing cheek to cheek, cheek to cheek, cheek to cheek, cheek to cheek. Pennies in a stream, falling leaves, a sycamore, moonlight in Vermont. I see finger waves, ski trails on a mountainside, snow light in Vermont, telegraph cables, they sing down the highway and travel each bend in the road. People who meet in this romantic setting are so hypnotized by the lovely wobbling of a meadowlark, moonlight in Vermont. Telegraph cables, they sing down the highway and travel each bend in the road.
People who meet in this romantic setting, so hypnotized by the lovely.
Evening summer breeze, wobbling of a meadowlark, moonlight in Vermont. You and I and moonlight in The moment I wake up, before I put on my makeup, I say a little prayer for you. And while combing my hair now, and wondering what dress to wear now, I say a little prayer for you. Forever, forever, you stay in my heart, and I will love you forever, ever, ever. Together, together, how it must be to live without you would only be heartbreak for me. I run for the bus stand, but while riding I think of us dear. I say a little prayer for you. And at work I just take time, and all through my coffee break time, I say a little prayer for you. Forever, ever, ever, stay in my heart, and I will love you forever, ever, ever. How I love you together, together, together. How it must be to live without you would only be heartbreak for me. Nobody but me. Forever, ever. For me, there is no one but you. Please love me too. This is my prayer. Answer my prayer now, baby. This is my prayer. Answer it right now, baby. Say you love me too. Answer my prayer. This is my prayer, baby.
yes, I never cared much for moonlit skies. I never went back for fireflies. Now that the stars in your eyes are beginning to see the light. I never went in for afterglow, candlelight on the mistletoe. Now that you turn the lamp down low, I'm beginning to see the light. Yes, used to ramble through the park, shadow boxing in the dark. Then you came and caused the spark. That's a full-on fire now. I never made love by lantern shine. I never saw rainbows in my wine. Now that your lips are burning mine, I begin to see the light. Yes, I never cared much for moonlit skies. Never went back to fireflies. But now that the stars are in your eyes, I'm beginning. I never went in for afterglow or candlelights on the mistletoe. But not when you turn the lamp down low, I'm beginning. Used to ramble through the park, shadow boxing in the dark. Then you came and caused that spark, the full on fire now. I never made love by lantern shine. I never saw rainbows in my wine. But now that your chops are burning mine, I'm beginning. Yeah.
Oh, she may be weary. Young girls, they do get weary wearing that same old shaggy dress. Yeah. But when she gets weary, try a little tenderness. Yeah. You know she's waiting, just anticipating a thing that she'll never, 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 never possess. Yeah. While she's there waiting, without them, try a little tenderness. It's not just sentimental, no, no, no. She has her grief and care, yeah. But the soft words, they are spoke so gentle, yeah. It makes it easier to bear. Yeah. You won't regret it, no. Young girl, they don't forget it. No, it's their own happiness. Yeah. But it's all so easy. All you gotta do is try. Try a little. All you gotta do is dance. Hold on where you wanna. Squeeze her, don't tease her, never leave her. Get to her, drop, drop, try a little. When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we've seen. No, I won't be afraid. No, 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 I won't be afraid. Just as long, just as long, just as long as you stand by me. Now, darling, darling, whenever I'm in trouble, darling, won't you stand? I need just a little heaven here right now. And darling, darling, won't you stand by me? If the sky look upon me, should tumble and all of the mountain may crumble to the sea. I won't cry, I won't cry. No, 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 I won't shed no tears. Just as long, just as long, just as long as you stand by me. Now, darling, darling, I said I need somebody right now. I need just a little helping hand. Need someone to come pick me up and let me stand by me. Come on now, baby. Yeah. Baby. Whoa, whoa. Come on and stand by me. And darling, darling, stand by me. Come on, pretty baby, stand by me. Come on and help me, baby. I need a little love. Come on and stand right by me. Whenever I'm in trouble, won't you stand? Come on and stand by me. Baby. Come on. My baby don't care for shows. My baby don't care for clothes. My baby just cares for me. My baby don't care for cars and races. My baby don't care for cotton please. Liz Taylor is not a star high, and even Lana Turner's smile. Something he can't see. My baby don't care who knows. My baby just cares for me. shorts, and he don't even care for clothes. He cares for me. My baby don't care for cars and races. Baby don't care for. He don't care for high-tone places. Liz Taylor is not his style, and even Liberace smile. Something he can't see is something he can't see. I wonder what's wrong with baby. My baby just cares for. My baby just cares for. My baby just cares for me. Put a spell on you. Cause you're mine. You better stop the things you do. I ain't lying. No, I ain't lying. You know I can't stand it. You're running around. You know better, Daddy. I can't stand it cause you put me down. Yeah, yeah. I put a spell on you. Because you're mine. You're mine. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you anyhow. And I don't care if you don't want me. I'm yours right now. Oh, you hear me? I put a spell on you. Because you're mine.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful stars shining bright above you. Night breezes seem to whisper, I love you. Birds singing in the sycamore trees. Dream a little dream of me, yes. Say nighty night and kiss me. Just hold me tight and tell me you miss me. While I'm alone and blue as can be, dream a little dream of me. Stars fading, but I linger on, dear, still craving your kiss. I'm longing to linger till dawn, dear, just saying this, yes. Sweet dreams till sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams that leave all worries behind you. But in your dreams, whatever it be, dream a little dream of me. Yeah. I linger on, dear, still craving your kiss. I'm longing to linger till dawn, dear, just saying this, yes. Sweet dreams till sunbeam find ya. Sweet dreams that leave all worries behind you. But in your dreams, whatever they be, dream a little dream of me. Yes, dream a little dream of me.
safe for me. No, it's all good. I didn't realise that these guys had this stuff booked until 4 o'clock. And originally we were supposed to be picking it up until 2. That's my calendar. So we picked it up downstairs, but that's fine. I sort of just hold it. Nice thing to get. However, the stuff that is in long room, that's where they all run out easy and things like that. And I could be here until. So all that is there is a laptop output with HDMI power and a PC audio going into it on it. So if I left the PowerPoint running on that and some music, and someone else came and got it tomorrow morning, how would that sound? Sweet. Yeah. Yep, sweet. Yeah, so yeah, because Norwood has all of the gear and Norwood is staying here. And then Nets has already picked up that. And then while we're literally only that's it, the only Nets left on the free. Yeah. All right. Sweet. All right. Okay, cool. Well, we shall do that. That's all good. Hey, do you know? Oh, actually, once again, William, do you know the Spotify account for your media? Do you know the Spotify account for maybe? Yes. Because they need Spotify running some music, but I've been using my personal one. Feel free to teach me if you want. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll just run it off of the free version. I just won't be able to select songs, it'll just shut me through the whole thing, which actually looks fine anyways. Yeah, it does. But they can't even hear the music going on in there anyways. Okay, sweet. Right. So we get to delete that? Yeah, that whole thing's staying there, being picked out on Monday. Sweet. I want to go to done.
Just stay over there.
Need me for anything else? No, mate, you can shoot.
Sweet as. Thank you very much, Josh.
Thank you. You've been great.
Well done today, getting around that outpoint.
Yeah, that was lots of fun, eh?
That was no fun at all. It was absolutely no fun. I felt you very, very strongly when I saw that happen.
Nah, it's all good.
Speaking of someone who's been standing behind his camera and had the main board fail live,
oh yeah, that's
you know,
that's not fun at all.
The worst feeling in the world.
Absolutely.
There's no backup for it.
Thank you. No, you have a good rest of your day, and
I've got the LAV load out tonight, of course. So.
Yeah, go get some of that food because there's some plates.
Mate, I've never been a big eater, and that's really fun.
I gotta keep a fucking ice cream container on me ready to go for shit like this. Eh?
Well, I remember that Farmers Mutual group, the massive waste at the end of it.
Yeah.
I've never seen so much food thrown away. Just thrown away.
It's gonna be pretty sad to see sometimes, eh?
Oh, it's maybe a little bit ill, frankly. Anyway, guys, have a good rest of the day.
Peace out. Can you please do me a favour, Nicole, can and let them know that everything in that room, the long room, is staying. And it'll be picked up.
Alright.
And tell them it's just left in front of the 3 cameras.
Cool cam?
Cool cam.
Alright.
And tell them Ash knows and Brian knows that they're fine.
Okay. Hey Cam, I've just been told by Josh to call you and let you know that everywhere in Basin, so everything in Basin except for downstairs, is not being picked up till Monday. And both Ash and the client know and are happy with it. So everywhere in Basin Reserve except for the downstairs room aren't being picked out. We're leaving it because they still want it for until like 4 or 5, I think they said. And so, yeah, it'll be back on Monday. Josh just told me to let you know. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm already done. We're about to leave. Yeah. 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 Yep. Yep. Through this. Yep. No problem.